Hello my students, hope you are fine. Science, Primary 6, first term. Before we start, let me answer the question in the previous PowerPoint that I let you think about it. The answer is no. You measure your body mass, and this is because you use a digital scale or a scale with pointer, and this is a device to measure the mass of any object. Okay, now we are going to start Unit 2, Thermal Energy, and this unit consists of 2 lessons. I will explain the first lesson, which is talking about heat conductor. There is a very big difference between heat and temperature, and here we have a video to explain the difference between them.
Have you ever touched a hot pot that was on a stove? What happens when you touch it? It burns your hand because the heat energy is transferring from the hot pot to your hand. Your hand had a different temperature than the hot pot. Your hand was much cooler than the hot pot. Heat energy always travels from a hotter substance to the colder substance. In this case, it travels from the pot to your hand. Think about what happens to a mug of coffee when you pour hot coffee into it. The mug felt cool at first, but then felt hotter as you poured the hot coffee into it. The hot coffee transferred its heat energy to the mug, which was cooler. Heat is not the same as temperature. Have you ever used a thermometer to measure something's temperature? Temperature is a measure of the energy that matter contains, or how hot or cold it is.
We can conclude from the previous video, heat energy is a form of energy that transfers from higher temperature object, hot object, to lower temperature object, which is cold. While temperature is the degree of hotness or coldness of an object. For sure, we have a device that we use to measure temperature. This device is called thermometer. So, thermometer, the device that we used for measuring temperature. For sure, heat is very important and has many uses in our daily life. We are going to divide its importance into 2 parts. Number 1 at home, number 2 in industry. First, the importance of heat at home. We use it in cooking, water heating, ironing clothes. In industry, we can use heat for food industry like making cake and bread. We use it also in glass industry, as we bring the sand, and by heating we can change the sand into glass. Number 3, paper industry. For sure, we can make paper from the wood of trees, as we can change the wood of the trees by heating into paper. Now we have a video to show the ability of materials to conduct heat.
To begin, you're going to take a small glass bowl, and inside you're going to place 3 spoons. 1 spoon that's made of wood, 1 spoon made of metal, and 1 spoon made of plastic. Then, you're going to take a small pat of butter, and you're going to place it on the top of each of the spoons. So once you have the butter on the spoons, you're going to put a bead in the butter on each of the spoons as well. And then after you have the beads and the butters on the spoon, you're going to straighten out the spoons so they're all laying evenly. And now it's time to move to the next step. For the next step, you're going to take some hot and just boiling water, and you're going to slowly pour it into the bowl. You want to make sure that the spoons do not fall into the water. Once you have the water in the bowl, we're going to wait and we're going to watch to see what happens.
From the previous video, we can conclude that materials are classified into heat conductors and heat insulators. Heat conductors. Heat conductors are materials that let heat flow through. Like what? Like iron, copper, aluminum, and stainless steel. Heat insulators are materials that don't let heat flow through, like wood, wool, rubber, plastic, paper, and glass. Here we have a comparison between good conductors of heat or heat conductors and bad conductors of heat or heat insulators. The points of comparison here, definitions and examples. Good conductors of heat, the materials that let heat flow through, while bad conductors of heat, the materials that don't let heat flow through. The examples for good conductors of heat: iron, copper, aluminum, stainless steel. Bad conductors of heat, like wood, glass, plastic, wool, air, paper, rubber. Now I'm going to explain the usage of heat conductors and heat insulators. First, heat conductors. Heat conductors like aluminum and stainless steel, we can use them in making cooking pots or cooking utensils and making kettles. The uses of heat insulators, like wood and plastic, we can use them in making handles of cooking pots, iron, kettles. Number 2, wool. We can use it in making heavy blankets and woolen clothes. Here we have a comparison between the uses of heat conductors and heat insulators. Heat conductors are used in making cooking pots and kettles. Give reason for. Aluminum, copper, stainless steel are used in making cooking pots and kettles. The answer? Because metals are good conductors of heat. Heat insulators. Plastic and wood are used in making handles of cooking pots and kettles. Give reason. The answer? Because plastic and wood are heat insulators. Okay. Heavy blankets and woolen clothes are used in winter. Why? Give reason 4. To keep bodies warm and prevent the leakage of heat. Here we have a comparison between heat conductors and heat insulators. But we increase here a point of comparison, which is the uses. First, heat conductors. The definition: they are materials that allow heat to flow through. The examples: iron, copper, aluminum, and stainless steel. The uses: number 1, making cooking pots, making kettles. Heat insulators. The definition: they are materials that don't allow heat to flow through. Examples: glass, wood, plastic, paper, rubber, wool, and air. The uses: making handles of cooking pots, kettles, making heavy blankets and woolen clothes. I'm going to explain the life applications on heat insulators and heat conductors. And I'm going to start with heat insulators. For example, air. We use air in insulating a glass window. How? Insulating a glass window are made by 2 sheets of glass filled with air. If I ask you, give reason 4. Insulating glass windows are made by 2 sheets of glass filled with air. The answer? To prevent the leakage of heat, as air is a bad conductor of heat. Heat conductors, like iron or metals, leaving the spaces between railway bars to avoid train accident. And here we have a video to explain this point.
A railway track is made up of a number of rails joined to each other. These rails are usually made up of steel. Steel expands on heating and contracts on cooling. When the rails are joined to one another without leaving any space for expansion, the rails bend due to thermal expansion and the train goes off the railway track. To avoid this, the rails are not joined together firmly. Instead, each rail is connected to the other in such a way that a small gap is left in between them. These small gaps provide space for easy expansion of the rails, which happens during summer, as well as due to continuous friction between the train wheels and the rails. Hence, these small gaps prevent the rails from bending, preventing any kind of accidents.
Important notes. All metals are good conductors of heat. Number 2. The different metals conduct heat by different rates. What are the best metals for conducting heat? Here we have a video to show you how do metals different in conducting heat. Here we have copper, aluminum, and brass. It's like iron. Look at the ice. The ice melts faster on the copper sheet than aluminum, than iron. We can conclude from the previous video, copper conducts heat faster than aluminum, and aluminum can conduct heat faster than iron. So the note number 3, copper is the best and fastest metal in conducting heat. Now I'm going to ask you a question. What happens if all materials are good conductors of heat? I will let you think about the answer for this question and I will explain it in the next session. Thank you for listening, my students. Have a good day and good luck.